Hospitals are the most unpredictable places in the world. You can go in for one procedure and come out all fine. Or you can go in for a quick fix and end up with problems you never even had before. Or worse, your life changes forever, and not in a good way. This is exactly what happened to Lee. He went to the hospital for a simple heart procedure and came out with something much, much worse. Permanent brain damage. All because the hospital made a tiny mistake. What was it? How did the hospital mess up? Let's hear Lee's story to find out. Who is Lee? Lee is the kind of person everyone loves to have around. He is a husband and a father to 5 kids, and he absolutely loves his little family. Lee and his family are from Oregon. According to his family and friends, Lee loves his surroundings. He loves the outdoors. In fact, every year without fail, Lee took his family camping up in the Cascades, which is a beautiful mountain range in Oregon, known for its lovely scenery and outdoor activities. These trips were a vacation for the family. They would crab at the Oregon coast or fish in the mountain lakes, and they liked to do some activity. They would forage for mushrooms in the dense forests and then hunt deer during the fall. These were the things Lee cherished and shared with his family. Lee grew up in an outdoor family, so it was in his blood. His kids grew up with the same love for nature. They spent their weekends together and explored the wilderness. He made sure no one sat at home and wasted their precious time. Lee also had grandchildren, and he loved them just as much as he loved his own kids. He also made sure they experienced the joys of nature as his kids did. He taught them how to catch their first fish. He even showed them which mushrooms were safe to pick in the forest, were moments he treasured. He was living his life to the fullest. Lee was also a hard-working man. He was a machine operator in a factory, but as far as we got to know from his colleagues and friends, he was so much more than that. He was the guy everyone went to when something went wrong, and he always helped them. Lee could modify and adjust the machines with ease, solving problems that others found tricky. He was always ready to lend a hand to younger workers, training new employees and mentoring them, making sure they felt confident and capable. His colleagues respected and admired him for his skills and his willingness to help. Physically, Lee was strong and capable, and he was so compassionate. His neighbor tells how Lee once helped him by picking up a car engine and placing it in the back of a pickup truck. And then when his 6'4" adult son got sick, Lee did not hesitate to help again. He picked his son up, carried him to his own car, and then drove him to the hospital to get checked. That's the kind of strength and love Lee had. He just did what needed to be done. Lee is the kind of person who used to give his all to his family, his job, or his community. But what happens when such a strong and dedicated man is let down by a system that is supposed to take care of him? The surgery. It was not long ago that Lee found out that he needed surgery. It was a serious but common procedure the doctors have been doing for years. In fact, it was a type of surgery that was first done right there in Oregon. Most people who have this surgery come out just fine and live normal lives. But for Lee, things went really wrong. Lee went to the hospital to fix a problem with his heart rhythm. It was supposed to be a routine procedure. His family felt pretty confident since many people have had this surgery with no issues. The surgery was going smoothly in the beginning. The doctors who were on this case were experts. They knew what they were doing. Everything was going as per the medical plan, but then a big mistake happened. Lee was given way too much of a strong heart medicine. This was not just a small error, it was a huge one. This overdose caused Lee's heart to go into ventricular fibrillation. You see, normally our hearts beat at a set number of beats in a minute, but when our heart starts beating faster, it goes into fibrillation. In other words, it starts quivering instead of beating normally. When this happens, the heart cannot pump blood like it should, and blood stops reaching different parts of the body, including the brain. The brain needs a constant supply of oxygen to work properly. When the heart is not pumping right, the brain gets starved of oxygen, and brain cells start dying. The brain can take it for some minutes, but after 4 minutes of not receiving enough oxygen, the damage is permanent. In Lee's case, the anesthesiologist gave him a very high dose of the heart drug. This was the reason his heart started quivering. This stopped the blood supply to his brain. The doctors tried to fix the problem. They tried to control the heartbeat, but the time was passing quickly. Before they could control the fibrillation, the damage was already done. Parts of Lee's brain were severely damaged. For Lee, the result was devastating. His brain did not get enough oxygen, and the damage was severe. This meant that the strong, hardworking man who loved the outdoors and his family was now dealing with serious disabilities. He could no longer work, enjoy his outdoor adventures, or even do simple daily tasks. The surgery was supposed to help Lee, to fix his heart and improve his life. But because of a mistake that should have never happened, Lee's life was changed forever. Life after surgery. After the surgery, everything changed for Lee. He could not walk by himself anymore, and his left hand was stuck in a clawed position. He had trouble remembering things and thinking clearly, and he struggled with his emotions, even though he sometimes seemed okay on the outside. Lee had to stay in a brain rehab facility and needed a caretaker every day. The man who once loved the outdoors and was so full of life was now in a wheelchair. He now depends on others for everything. Seeing how badly the hospital messed up, Lee decided to hire an attorney and take them to court. He wanted justice for the mistake that turned his life upside down. The trial. Preparing for Lee's trial was tough. Representing someone with a brain injury is challenging because you need to show the jury the real impact of the injury. In cases of visible injuries, juries can easily understand the losses, but with brain injuries, it's harder for jurors to see the damage. In Lee's case though, the injuries were clear. He could not walk on his own, and his left hand was permanently clawed. He had memory and cognitive losses and emotional difficulties. The defense tried to create doubt. They suggested various other causes for Lee's injury. And when you are in court, there is a double standard. The attorneys had to provide solid scientific evidence showing that the medication overdose caused Lee's brain injury. The defense, however, could argue a bunch of counter-arguments to confuse the jury. They said there were inherent brain risks in the procedure, that the medication overdose was not really an overdose, and that no human studies showed an intravenous dose like Lee's could cause harm. They even suggested the injury could have happened before the overdose or could have been from tiny blood clots, or that Lee's brain anatomy might have caused the problem. To clear this mess, the attorney got a top neuroradiologist to review Lee's case. This expert did not know which side the attorney was on and found clear facts. He gave testimony and told the court that there was no trauma or bleeding in Lee's brain. There was normal blood flow to the brain the day after surgery, which ruled out blood clots. He also said that the brain damage patterns matched what happens with low blood pressure during surgery. In simple words, he testified that the brain damage happened because of low blood pressure during surgery. This testimony cut through the defense's arguments. Still, the defense kept arguing for weeks. At the trial's end, the jury had to decide on the money to help Lee. Brain injuries mean lifelong care, which is something most people don't really think about. The attorney presented a life care plan detailing everything Lee needed, why he needed it, and how much it would cost. This plan covered everything from daily help to medical treatments. The attorney also had to show the human side of Lee's losses, beyond just money. Usually, the injured person testifies to help the jury understand their pain and suffering, but Lee couldn't testify because of his brain injury. This is why an independent forensic psychologist confirmed that he was not mentally competent. The court appointed a conservator to protect Lee's interests and manage his money. In the end, the jury awarded Lee $12 million. This was to cover his future care and needs, ensuring he would get the help he needed for the rest of his life. The verdict was a big step towards justice for the terrible mistake that changed Lee's life forever. Where is Lee now? Lucky for Lee, his case was settled. Now he has the resources to improve his life. He has a new wheelchair-accessible truck, a power scooter, and a remodeled home that fits his needs. The hospital made some big changes after Lee's case. They stopped using the large bottles of the heart medicine that led to Lee's overdose. Instead, they switched to smaller bottles with the correct dosage. This change means that the same mistake won't happen to other patients. The hospital also reviewed and improved their procedures to make sure they have higher safety standards. They implemented new training programs for their staff to prevent similar errors in the future. Knowing that his case helped make these important changes gives Lee some comfort. His life is better now, and he is proud that his experience led to better safety measures for others. What other precautions do you think hospitals should take to make sure no such thing happens again? Share your opinions with us in the comments below. Before you go, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more shocking stories. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.